I've been saying time and again that Mr. Museveni himself would never have had a degree in his life if he studied in the period that he has created. If he was a student today, there is absolutely no way his father, Mr. late Kaguta, would have paid millions for him to go to university. There is no way. Yet you release soldiers armed to the teeth with helmets and all kinds of things to go and terrorize and torture students who are simply complaining that the fees have become intolerable. Injustice, economic injustice. We are talking about political injustice, where people have no political voice. The whole idea of living together is that we have equal rights. But you know that we live in a country where we have no voice. Voice of citizens is expressed through elections. If you rig elections with impunity, it means you are making citizens voiceless. That was the very reason Mr. Museveni in the first place went to the bush, because he had no voice, only to use his new advantage to muzzle everybody else and to continue rigging elections with impunity. The institutions charged with ensuring security are themselves managed with injustice and mismanaged. You find people who enter the forces today are the masters of those who trained them the next day. People who don't know how their trajectory in their employment, how their careers progress. The country has been complaining rightly about nepotism in these forces. And it's eminent. Fortunately now some put on their names, and you can see the names from the names. And other indicators. So there is unrest, dissatisfaction in the various security institutions that are supposed to maintain law and order. That defense, security, and justice of its people. I'm sure you are daily aware and informed of the levels of insecurity across the country that have left many people dead. In fact, according to the official report of the police, at least 21 people are killed every day. In all forms of violence. And I'm sure you know that this state of insecurity has been escalating and becoming pervasive in all spheres of our lives. And accompanying this insecurity is the state of human rights abuses, gross human rights abuses, And it is over these two vital aspects of the state that we seek to address you today. These aspects of the state form core aspects of our Constitution, because indeed that's why the state is there. And the Constitution protects in a fundamental way these tenets. And in the Constitution, actually, the rights against, for example, torture and inhuman treatment are entrenched for that reason. They are not derogable. You cannot reduce them. They are not granted by the state. They are inherent. But as we know, that is no longer the case. So the state has abdicated its fundamental purpose. It's a gross abdication. It has vacated its central role. And, you know, if you pause to ask yourselves, why is there escalating violence? Why is there escalating insecurity? You'll find that the answers to that question are rooted in three things. First, insecurity is rooted in injustice. In fact, injustice and insecurity are two sides of the same coin. Just like peace and justice are two sides of the same coin. Once you lose justice, you go to insecurity. And we have an all-round state of injustice. Social economic injustice. The rampant land grabbing and evictions of people from places they have known for generations as their homes. We have very many people who are homeless today through evictions and land grabbing, including here in Kampala. You know, we are still sitting with a fresh case of Lusanja people. Hundreds of people that are now living in tents. You've seen children drown in that Lusanja because of the evictions. And this goes on all over, even where they are not as highlighted as those. Injustice. Injustice that manifests itself in unfair taxes and seizures of people's properties. Hundreds of hawkers that you see trying to make ends meet, seeking subsistence, whose property is daily grabbed violently and taken away. And you see a mother with a child at her back carrying a basket of bananas. That's her entire livelihood. The basket is grabbed violently from her and she ends up in prison, leaving other children at home unattended. So this economic injustice that has left millions of our people jobless, being trafficked through human trafficking, being taken into slavery, It's that injustice that breeds insecurity. It's the injustice of people that cannot meet their basic health care needs. You've been seeing people imprisoned in hospitals because they cannot pay their bills, which in itself is illegal, because the international covenants are very clear that you cannot imprison somebody because of a debt of obligation. But this happens every day. Rosira is full of people. Hospitals are detaining people. Even as we talk now, hundreds of Makerere students are in prison because of hiked fees. Their only crime being to say this fees is unfair, raising a flag to say the fees. This is a public institution. Makerere is not a private institution, it's a public institution. We send there our children to get knowledge. They end up being abused in the most disturbing ways.